All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're exploring a world where absolute natural beauty hides something deeply, deeply sinister. We're talking about the Sundarbans. You know, it's this incredibly dense, beautiful, and mysterious mangrove forest. But today, we're totally bypassing the scenery to dive into a terrifying local legend from its dark, unforgiving depths. A story where the line between human and bloodthirsty beast just completely disappears.
So, I want you to think about this. What actually happens when a terrifying myth steps out of the shadows and becomes a bloody reality? We hear spooky stories all the time, right? We brush them off as just folklore or superstition. But imagine if that fear lurking in the dark, that centuries-old horror story, suddenly became incredibly real. That's exactly what this entire explainer is about today.
Section 1. The terrifying mystery of Sundarbans. We kick things off with this absolute nightmare scenario. Imagine a quiet, remote village suddenly shattered by the absolute despair of a mother. A local woman, Kakori, is mourning her son, Vijay. He was the victim of a brutal tiger attack, and the only things they found were his bloodied clothes. The entire village is just suffocating under this heavy cloud of pure fear.
Now, you might be wondering, why on earth don't these terrified people just pack up and leave? Well, it's not that simple. Their entire lives, their food, their shelter, it all depends on this forest. They literally cannot leave. So instead of relying on modern solutions, they lean heavily into their protective mythology, specifically a guardian goddess named Bon Bibi. They truly believe that seeking her protection is the absolute only way to survive the horrors of the jungle.
Moving on to Section 2, the Tantric's frightening condition. Desperate times call for desperate measures, right? So the villagers, completely out of options, seek out Ramesh. He's a local tantric who promises them salvation. But, as you can probably guess, it comes at a very, very deadly cost.
Ramesh tells them they have to appease the goddess with a highly specific ritual. And here's the catch. It requires sandwood harvested from the absolute deepest parts of the Sundari forest. Oh, and the journey must be made in the dead of a dark, moonless night. An older villager, Chandu Kaka, actually braves the pitch-black forest in his boat to get this wood. But out of nowhere in that ocean of darkness, there's a strong smell, a deafening roar, and two glowing eyes. In an instant, Chandu Kaka becomes yet another victim.
Which brings us to Section 3, the ignorance of city boys. Talk about dramatic irony. While the village is literally drowning in grief and terror, Inral Rohit, Amit, and Shahid. These are three completely oblivious city boys who have just arrived for an illegal, off-the-books camping trip.
The contrast here is just wild. On one side, you have the locals, living in grim reality, facing daily death and incredibly respectful of the forest lore. On the other side, these naive campers. They're drinking, bypassing rangers just for a cheap thrill, and acting incredibly arrogant. They think they're completely safe from any danger just because they threw some cash at a local guide. And guess who they hired? Ramesh.
Section 4. Not a tiger, Big O ghost. Let's build the suspense here. The night gets darker, the animal noises get creepier, and the boys are just drinking away. Suddenly, Ramesh arrives at their campsite carrying a lantern. He looks completely rattled and immediately starts drawing these frantic protective marks on the ground all around them.
This is where Ramesh drops the real terrifying lore on them. He warns the boys that they aren't dealing with a normal tiger, not even close. He tells them about the Bego boot. According to the myth, if a human is killed by a tiger on a new moon night, their soul becomes this vengeful, monstrous spirit. It's a ghost that doesn't just kill, it strips its victims right down to the bone.
Now, you'd think this would scare them straight, but Amit, in this peak moment of arrogance, completely dismisses the local folklore. He literally laughs it off, saying something like, there isn't a single neighborhood in India that doesn't have its own specific ghost. He thinks it's all just a joke. He has absolutely no idea how fast that joke is going to turn into a nightmare.
Ramesh doesn't laugh. He just gives this cold, eerie smile and says, "You might dodge a tiger, but nobody escapes its gaze." And right on cue, the wind just starts howling violently. Their campfire, their one source of safety, abruptly dies out, pitch black. And then a terrifying, massive roar completely shatters the silence right next to them.
And boom, here is the monstrous plot twist. Ramesh wasn't playing tour guide. He deliberately lured these city boys out here. Remember that ritual? To bind the Begel boot and save his village, Ramesh needed to offer it 5 sacrifices. He had already sacrificed 2 locals. Rohit, Amit, and Shahid, they were lured there to be the final 3. Ramesh literally traded their lives to save his own skin.
Total, absolute panic sets in. The guys scatter. Rohit sprints into the dark, but it's like he hits a brick wall, some sort of invisible force. Before he can even react, this massive, unseen paw just brutally strikes him down. There's one piercing, horrifying scream, and then dead silence. He never even saw what hit him.
Shahid is next. He's running out of breath, sprinting for his life, but he's suddenly cornered by this absolute monstrosity. It's half man, half tiger, completely gruesome. With a deafening roar, this terrifying, unseen force just latches onto Shahid's legs and violently drags him screaming into the pitch-black forest.
Which brings us to our final section, an endless curse. The dust settles a bit, it's just Amit and Ramesh left. Ramesh is thinking, okay, ritual complete, I've saved the village. But then, the blood-soaked monster slowly turns around, and its glowing, predatory eyes lock dead onto Ramesh.
Ramesh is terrified. He screams out, "I gave you the sacrifices, we had a deal." But actually, scratch that. Vengeful demonic spirits don't exactly honor contracts. The Begel boot completely ignores Ramesh's ritualistic bargain and violently, brutally slaughters the Tantric right then and there. The ultimate betrayal.
So now, it's just Amit. The monster grabs him, but it doesn't kill him. It just drops him roughly next to their jeep and vanishes. But Amit's nightmare is just starting. His body starts violently twitching on the ground. His breathing accelerates. Slowly, his eyes turn this deep blood red, and half of his body agonizingly begins to transform. Amit isn't just a survivor, he is becoming the new Begel boot.
Let's fast forward a few days. A brand new tourist jeep pulls up to the edge of the forest. 3 fresh city guys hop out, looking for a weekend thrill. And who is standing there to greet them with a chilling, monstrous smile? Amit. Some legends just refuse to die, right? They just evolve. So, the ultimate question we have to leave you with today is, who is going to be the next victim? Thanks so much for diving into this dark explainer with us, and we'll catch you on the next one.